Welcome back into the channel, everybody. My name is Tom Cox, and I'm the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. We also help good people become great leaders. If that's interesting to you, there's a link down below where you can learn more. Today, I'm really excited to bring to you someone that I've been working with a lot over the last year. Her name is Danielle Bradley, and I'll tell you a little bit about Danielle here. So she is a career coach and a get hired expert. She focuses on helping mid-career professionals get hired faster for higher paying and the most fulfilling jobs that they can find. Now, before transitioning to this career coach and business owner that she is now, she actually worked her way up in the corporate world. She started as a customer service representative in the financial services sector. She transitions into consumer packaged goods or CPG industry. And she worked for some amazing brands that you've heard of, such as Clorox, Hallmark, and Weber. As a senior sales leader in CPG, Danielle led large multifunctional teams of over 900 employees and business lines over $120 million. After a sudden layoff in midlife, she decided that she was going to become her own career coach. And so she became her first career coaching client. She secured multiple six-figure job opportunities doing this. Today, she's the founder and leader of a fast-growing business and has helped hundreds of mid-career professionals get hired in CPG, tech, pharma, healthcare, finance, and a whole lot of other industries. She uses a 4-phase process that's a proven process. It's the Get Hired Mid-Career Formula. Please help me welcome to the podcast, Danielle Bradley. Danielle, good to see you.
It's great to see you as well, Tom.
So let's just kind of dive into your story. I want to know a little bit about kind of like your origin story that you spent, I guess, 25, 30 years in a career, and now you're in an entirely different place. But let's talk about first 30 years, how you moved up, the corporate ranks and kind of built your career over time.
Well, I was kind of a late bloomer, actually, and my career didn't quite span 30 years in CPG, but initial role, as you mentioned, in customer service was kind of something I fell into. I wish I had kind of designed a career from an early age, but I was just one of those folks that I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I sort of started in customer service, and it turned out that I enjoyed it, and I was able to work hard, as they say, and kind of, climb up that corporate ladder that so many people do. It's just in my case, it just was not something that I really dreamt of doing when I was younger. It's something that just kind of progressed over time.
Okay, so you built this career. It was kind of a means to an end, in other words. It was just kind of like how most of us feel about our careers, where we're just kind of, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to move up and, move up in your career. But then let's talk through the transition. So you were kind of at a pretty good point in your career, leading teams of 900 people. That's a pretty large team to lead. And then what happened?
And then I suffered a sudden layoff when I was in my mid-40s. So truly in mid-career, it was one of those layoffs that happened, hundreds of people lost their jobs all at the same time. It was done in waves, and it was done both in the US and Canada in the organization that I was at. And I was kind of one of the last ones into the company. I had made a career transition a few years earlier, just less than 5 years earlier, where I made a lateral move because I felt like I would be able to have more growth opportunity with this company. And I did. I got promoted within 2 years, rather, of making that move. But then, of course, the layoff happened, and I was really not prepared for it.
And I got to tell you, so many of my clients and so many people who I talk to on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and elsewhere are going through just a rash of layoffs, constantly being laid off. It seems like everything seems fine, and all of a sudden, for no reason, the rug's pulled out from underneath of them. And so you may have had a little bit of awareness that this was coming, but still, even if it's not a surprise, it's still a shock, I assume.
For sure. Yes, it was a shock. I mean, the day of, I had a feeling that my name was on the list the day of. Of course, when you're at a certain level, you sort of get a feel for the lay of the land, but it was still a shock. I was not prepared. And you're right. I mean, we're seeing a lot of people going through that right now. And over the last few years where, some people have suffered multiple layoffs, and it's tough, right? Because you work hard to build your career and you have some responsibilities and not liabilities, but I was by myself. I had a mortgage, I had, car payments, and I really had to fend for myself. And unfortunately, I was not in a situation where I had, a huge severance package because I had been with the company just a few years.
So from there to here, let's kind of continue the story. Tell me what happened next.
Yeah. So I started my job search immediately, of course, right? It was a lot going on. I got outplacement support from the company that laid us off. And my first 6 months of active job search, I got exactly one interview.
Wow. One interview over 6 months.
Over 6 months. And I mean, my resume was redone, my LinkedIn profile, I was actively searching and nothing was working. Yeah.
Wow. I know that a lot of people in this audience can resonate with that feeling. Just like, I just need an opportunity, but like, I can't figure out how to get them. So 6 months goes by and you have one job opportunity, but then something changed. What changed?
Yeah, there's a few things that changed, but one of them was that I started working with, I hired a coach. I hired someone to help me with my resume, with my LinkedIn profile. I also decided to, this is something that, I was inspired by, thinking about purpose. I mean, you can relate to that. It's something that you teach on quite a bit. I thought, I'm going through this layoff. I think I want to go back in corporate right now, this time, but down the road, I think my long-term goal would be to be an entrepreneur. And so I decided to certify as a life coach at that time. This was several years ago. And it was just, always something that I was interested in that appealed to me, having worked with large teams, coaching and mentoring people. It was something kind of near and dear to my heart. And so I decided, okay, I have this time while I'm looking for a new job. Let me just learn some new skills and build something. And maybe one day I'll be able to do something with this. Right.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was the early beginnings of the entrepreneurship that, I'm doing now. But those next 6 months, I really was able to crack the code of what is required to get hired in this day and age. And I also had paired that with the mindset that I learned from the life coaching training that I had. And after another 6 months, I interviewed with dozens of companies. I applied to hundreds of roles, and I finally ended up receiving 3 six-figure job offers all within 24 hours of one another. That's how it happened.
Nice. Nice timing of offers like that. I love when you can have multiple offers because it leads to the best possible leverage for all of them. So
Exactly.
fantastic. So did you take one of those offers?
I did take one of those offers at that time. I thought, you know what, I'm going to continue in corporate. But the time that I had actually kind of gave me the opportunity to really think about what I wanted for the long term. Did I want to continue the climbing the corporate ladder? And the answer was no. The answer was no. I want to have my own business one day. I wasn't able to quite, make it work at that time. I thought, let me take on a role that's going to pay me well, but that's going to be also fun, that I can contribute and add some value, but that's going to be easy for me to do in terms of the energy and the time. So I decided to take one of those offers, and it turned out to be one of the most fun jobs that I had.
Amazing. And so this job allowed you to have the time and creative energy available to think about what running your own business might look like. And I teach this a lot to my clients, that if you want to start a business, do it on the side until you can replace your income. And is that kind of the approach that you took?
Well, that was the goal. It didn't quite work out that way for me. That was the goal. But in the end, what ended up happening is the commuting became a beast with that role. And I was commuting 2 to 2.5 hours per day. And so I decided, because I was doing some career coaching on the side, I definitely knew what it took to get hired in midlife. So I decided, let me find a remote job. This was just before the pandemic, about a year before the pandemic. And I was able to land a remote job so I could work from home, so I could cut the commute, and I could have more time and energy to dedicate to building my craft and building my side business.
Got you.
Yeah.
So when did you go full-time in your side business?
It was 2.5 years ago.
And what was that experience like when you resigned from your full-time job and said, I'm going to go be a business owner now full-time?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was kind of a set of circumstances that led to that, to the departure. And it was kind of strange at that time. I certainly had some level of, I wouldn't call it fear, but a level of uncertainty perhaps. But there was something in me that firmly believed that I could make this work.
I love that. That fire inside of you that's like, I can do this. I just need
Yeah.
to figure it out and I'll get there. Yeah. That tenacity and that grit is definitely a big part of the equation for what makes a good entrepreneur. Let's switch gears a little bit, if you don't mind. I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about how you actually help people find careers and roles that are fulfilling and higher paying than what they're in now. Maybe you can just kind of talk through like a little bit of the process that you use to do that.
Definitely. Really, what we start with is it may be similar to some of what you do in some ways, but we help people in mid career really get clear about what it is that they want, right? Is it something that they want for the short term, mid-term, long term, and kind of get clear on what that looks like in terms of a target role, in terms of the type of company they want to work for, the industry, the culture, all of those things. And then from there, we put together what I like to call their clear value, really identify what they bring to the table and convey this in their documents, including their resumes, their LinkedIn profiles, which we optimize, and their cover letters. So that's the second phase of the process once they have that level of clarity. And then in the third phase is all about what I call clear offers. And really what we do there is all about the job search. And it's in a way you're making offers to employers to help them solve some problems that they have, which is why they're needing to hire someone. And so it's a little bit of a different approach, but we tap into the open job market as well as the hidden job market through that process. And then in phase 4 is all about clear selling and closing. So this is where we learn how to interview with confidence, really showcasing the results that we can deliver and then negotiating the best possible offer.
Well, that's fascinating to me because your process you just described is very similar to the process that we use here at Vertical Motion to help people move forward. That clarity in the beginning is absolutely critical. If you don't know where you're going, any direction is fine. And so having some direction, clarity on who you want to become and what's important to you is certainly a big part of it. Tell me a little bit about, because you mentioned a keyword that I like to use a lot. Tell me a little bit about this hidden job market. Like, tell the audience, what does that actually mean and how do you help people tap a hidden job market?
Yes. I mean, that hidden market is where, depending on who you talk to, it can be anywhere upwards of 70% of the job market, right? Where roles are just not posted anywhere. They're not posted online. They're not posted on company websites, on LinkedIn, on job boards. They're just not anywhere. And they are jobs that are either filled through third-party recruiters, sometimes hiring officials, just going out and actively seeking out the candidates that they think might be a good fit. Sometimes they're even roles that are just an idea or not even an idea in a founder's mind, right? I mean, this happens sometimes, right? Sometimes we have conversations with people and through that conversation, we realize, oh, there was a role that I thought I was thinking maybe I could fill, but now that you're here, I think you'd be a perfect fit for this. And all of a sudden, a hidden job market opportunity opens up through, conversations and networking. So this is why networking, and I know this is, sometimes a word that people don't like to use because it's not the most comfortable things, especially for people who may be introverted. But networking is so important because it helps you tap into those opportunities. And actually, the role that I got after my layoff, the one that I took, that was a hidden job market role because I interviewed for one role that was posted online and it was like a confidential posting, but they ended up offering me a completely different higher level role that they didn't think they would want to fill for the next 7 months. But because I showed up at that time and I was available, they're like, you're perfect for this. We want you for this role. So that was like a perfect hidden job market role.
That's amazing. I love that. And so you help a lot of your clients figure out how to do that. You're teaching them the skills that they need in order to find these kinds of roles and create these opportunities for themselves, generally speaking.
Exactly.
So let's go back and talk a little bit about, now you've been running this business for a couple years. So you're solopreneur, entrepreneur, running a business. I think you have a team now as well.
Yes.
What was that transition like from corporate executive to solopreneur, kind of working on your own and having to find your own business and become good at lead gen and fulfillment all at the same time? Just kind of talk me through what was it like when you first got to the point where you're generating revenue, you're generating some profit, things are feeling good. What was that like for you?
Probably fair to say a roller coaster. right? I mean, I haven't been in sales for so many years. I was kind of used to the ups and downs, right? There are some ups and downs, but ultimately it felt really fulfilling to me to do something that was fully aligned with my purpose, to help others get what they want, to be able to coach and mentor people, which was really what I enjoyed the most in corporate. But yeah, there was, some learning for sure. I mean, there's, so much to figure out when you're wearing all these hats. And at the beginning, I was definitely by myself. It took several months before I hired my first part-time VA, and then the team has grown since then. But a big part, I think, of the success of growing the business, and I know you believe in this as well, is to invest in coaches that could help me fast track sort of my progress, right? This is something that I started doing really over a decade ago to help me in different areas of my life and my career. I worked with an executive coach early on as a leader. I mean, I really invested so much over the years, but even more so once I went full time in my business. Even though there wasn't a whole lot of revenue coming in at the beginning, I knew full well that there was a lot that I didn't know how to do, and hiring specific coaches to help me fast track those pieces was going to be an important element of turning this into a viable business.
I love that commitment to coaching. I have the same experience where early in my career, I didn't really understand the value of coaches or coaching in general. I didn't see it. And in 2022, when I'm like, I want to learn how to build a coaching business, I hired a coach. I paid him $10,000 to teach me how to build my own business. And he's like, here you go. Here's what you need to know. Now go make your money back. And I did a couple months later. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, so I get it. And coaches are people who help fast track you through a certain part of your journey that they know extremely well. And this is what you do. This is what I do. This is what you and I are together in a coaching community. That's how we met, was actually we're both part of another coaching group where you and I actually went to Spain and spent a week with a bunch of 20-year-olds in some villa, which is kind of crazy for us, mid-career or midlife folks hanging out with these 20-year-old entrepreneurs. But yeah, I love that commitment to coaching. That, like, I eat my own dog food. I tell people that I've spent well over $100,000 in coaches, and I have no guilt about that. Every time I work with a coach, I always get my ROI back as long as I invest myself into that coaching. And I think that's been the same experience for you as well.
100%. Yeah. You get out what you put in, right? And finding the right coach, and then really, trying and implementing what they're teaching you makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to kind of wrap it up here. It's been a fantastic conversation, but I have a question that I ask all of the people who come on the podcast, and that is, what makes a leader to you?
Yeah, I think a leader is someone who has the ability to really believe in the people that they're leading, right? That's able to inspire, coach, and mentor them. And I was so fortunate that early on in my career, I had leaders that had that belief in me when I didn't have that belief in myself. And that just made such a difference. And they weren't afraid to have the tough conversations with me to help me grow as well. It's not always rainbows and daisies when you're working with a leader, but having someone that can help to take their mentees, the people that they're leading, their employees to the next level, I think makes for an amazing leader, in my opinion.
That's an amazing definition. And I love that you had great examples of leaders early in your career. That's very helpful. I didn't have as many great leaders early in my career. It wasn't until I was 25 where I met one and was like, wow, that's what leadership looks like. I get it now. Where can people find you? Where is a good place to send people who want to learn more about what you're doing? There's plenty of people who watch this channel that may be perfectly suited for what you do. So where can they find you?
Yes, they can definitely find me on LinkedIn, of course, at Danielle Bradley 1 on LinkedIn. They can also find me on Instagram at Coach with Danielle, and also on my website at coachwithdanielle.com.
So I'll leave all those links down below in the description of the video. So if you want to connect with Danielle, I highly recommend following her. She has amazing content. She has a great program that's a little bit different than what we do. We're helping people ascend to executive roles. She's helping people find those mid-career professional roles and learn all of the skills that you need in order to actually find those not just available jobs that are out there, but the hidden job market as well. So I encourage you to go follow her content, learn more about Danielle. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Anything else you want to share before we close it down?
No, I just want to thank you for having me. It's been really a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. I agree, Danielle. Thanks so much. And I'll see you all in the next one.